It doesn't take a sophisticate to see that God is bull.
I'm a philosopher. I'm a philosopher.
Someone with an IQ of 80 could probably work that out for themselves if they weren't brainwashed. Just got wrecked. Philosophy and religion and theology. Wrecked!
You're probably wondering what in the world that was that you just witnessed. That, my friends, is what we call a hate-theist in its natural habitat. As you see, they startle pretty easily. Now, hate-theists are the kind of internet atheists that exude serious amounts of arrogance and ignorance and usually lack the ability to talk about God without cursing or throwing temper tantrums. Now, of course, all atheists aren't this way, which is why we have the athememers. But if you're more of a visual learner, I can't think of a better example of an atheist than good old TJ Kirk. TJ runs the YouTube channel called The Amazing Atheist, which has over 1 million subscribers, which sounds pretty impressive until you realize how many people have gotten their heads stuck in a bucket at some point in their lives. Earlier, I came across a video from TJ where he was talking about Dr. William Lane Craig, and I just knew I had to respond to this one. So today, we're going to have another lesson of why you shouldn't learn about philosophy or theology from your favorite hate-theist YouTuber. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that sub button, and meme team, you guys ready? Then let's go!
Back to an earlier point, if I may, too, and that is the notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth. I think this is just completely false. The spate of new books published by the new atheists like Harris and Hitchens and Dawkins and so forth are not sophisticated books intellectually. These are, for the most part, angry, bitter diatribes against religion. And while someone like Dawkins may be a good scientist in his field, when he begins to talk about philosophy and theology, he is merely a layman. And the God delusion...
Yeah, he's not enough of an expert on made-up bullshit, you know? Philosophy and religion and theology.
Right. Well, I guess it helps here to know what philosophy actually is. According to a quick search on Google Dictionary, philosophy is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. So people who need help thinking clearly about things like knowledge, existence, and reality, they could actually benefit a lot from philosophy or studying philosophy. Because the harder time that TJ has given a coherent take on all three of those things, the more obvious it is that he needs to study philosophy, and coincidentally, the less he'll realize it. Now keep that in mind as we continue to hear his personal philosophy about why he doesn't need philosophy.
Okay, so everyone has a philosophy. Despite what the academics would have you believe, it's not just for them. It's not just for people who've studied, you know, the symposium and It's not just for people who've read Wittgenstein. It's for everybody. Everybody's got some kind of philosophy. Anyone is qualified to talk about philosophy. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but its level of sophistication doesn't really have anything to do with anything. To me, saying I'm a philosopher is just saying I'm a human being that can rub two brain cells together, you know?
Nah, playa, I don't know, because that ain't helping your argument. Think about it this way. What if I said, everyone uses logic. All you need is a human being who can rub two brain cells together. Nobody needs training from logicians because everyone uses logic. You'd probably say something like, well, yeah, it's true that everyone uses logic. Just because everyone uses it doesn't mean that everyone is equally good at it. Everyone uses English, but then again, you hear things like this.
Wait, why is that guy interviewed is trying to pretend he is smarter than what he sounds?
So by getting training in logic, you learn how to think correctly and learn how to actually use it better. Same could be said about philosophy. But there's another point to this too. TJ says that anyone is qualified to talk about philosophy.
Anyone is qualified to talk about philosophy. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but its level of sophistication doesn't really have anything to do with anything.
Again, yeah, it's true that anyone can do some philosophy in the same way that anyone can do some math. Even though everyone can, there's still some math that a layperson isn't equipped to deal with. In the same way, there's some philosophy that everyone's not really equipped to deal with. Now, I want you to notice something. Notice how TJ mocks philosophy similar to the same way that Dawkins mocked philosophy in The God Delusion. And look where it led him. Turn to page 84 in The God Delusion, or if you have a paperback, it's page number 108. And here we read Dawkins saying, I've forgotten the details, but I once piqued the gathering of theologians and philosophers by adapting the ontological argument to prove that pigs can fly. They felt the need to resort to modal logic to prove that I was wrong. Now, ironically, Dawkins has been sipping on so much hate-theist that he didn't even know that the ontological argument is actually an exercise in modal logic. That's like someone leaving a group of biologists and then saying, those biologists resorted to using microscopes to prove that I was wrong about the cell. and then being so arrogant in their ignorance that they actually walked away proud of it, patting themselves on the back. I bet those philosophers had a pretty good laugh after Dawkins walked away feeling accomplished. This is why you might recall me talking about how the atheist philosopher Michael Roos said that Dawkins would fail any introductory philosophy of religion course. And I think he's right, and so would TJ.
I mean, like I said, everyone can be a philosopher. Everyone has a philosophy. You have a philosophy, I have a philosophy. Most of us don't dwell on it or act like it's our f***ing profession.
Yeah, so two things. Now, first, TJ said, most of us don't dwell on it, which of course is something that I would personally encourage him to do because I think that he would significantly benefit from it, which will become more and more evident as this video goes on. And then he goes on to say, and act like it's our profession. So what's wrong with that argument? Could it be that, I don't know, that Craig is actually a philosopher by profession, so he isn't acting like anything? I mean, I don't go around acting as if I make videos because I make videos. And Craig doesn't go around acting like philosophy is his profession because it is. I guess we can also ask the question, why TJ doesn't go around acting like philosophy is his profession? My first thought is maybe it's because this is the kind of reaction he would get. And secondly, and probably the most reasonable answer is, I don't know, probably because philosophy obviously isn't his profession. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that TJ is a really dumb or bad thinker. I just lack evidence in the belief that TJ is
someone with an IQ of 80.
Maybe you're watching and maybe you're thinking, you know what? I actually really want some more evidence that TJ would actually benefit from an introductory philosophy class. Well, look no more. Let's hear what TJ has to say about his personal philosophy about life.
Yeah, I think the concept of balance is bullshit. I think that psychologically it appeals to people, but it doesn't actually have a whole lot of practical merit. You know, oh, I'm gonna find balance. You know, life is not about balance. Life is chaos.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, who needs balance? Certainly not the guy who literally balanced his audio levels before publishing his video, right? But what about the need for psychological balance? Who needs that? I can't think of anyone.
REKTS!
But if we find ourselves under the delusion that there isn't any need for psychological balance, and as a consequence we find ourselves in prison or a psych ward, how many fractions of a second do you think that it will take to realize the need for psychological balance? Well, I guess the answer to that question just depends on how much psychological balance you need in order to realize that things aren't exactly balanced in prison or the psych ward. But never mind psychological balance, TJ claims to love science, right? TJ tells us that life isn't about balance, but science tells us that our life quite literally depends on the incomprehensibly delicate balance of a bunch of fine-tuned constants and quantities. So yeah, life quite literally depends on balance. Now on a side note, you ever notice how hate-theists love the virtue signal by saying how much they love science, but they'll throw it out the window faster than you can say REKTS! If it means ridiculing Christians. But never mind that. Let's just go ahead and keep it moving.
Illusion is a very unsophisticated book intellectually. As a philosopher, I was just appalled at the arguments he gives in that
I'm a philosopher!
It is
I'm a philosopher!
An embarrassment, really, I think.
Well, I can agree, and I suspect Michael...
Don't quit your day job.
Would too.
You mean his day job as a professional philosopher? Okay, I don't think he will. It's a weird thing to say. Telling someone not to quit their day job is usually in the context of telling people that they won't get the job they want, so they shouldn't quit their day job in order to get that job. But in this case, it is actually Craig's day job. Yeah, but not to worry because he caught himself, and then he showed that he didn't really have a point in the first place, which is starting to become somewhat of a theme.
If you look at the reviews,
which I guess is a philosopher,
is respected in
so
his
do
field.
quit your day job.
But
yeah, now let's go ahead and see how much the lack of philosophical training that TJ has is paying off.
Intellectuals who do not believe at all in God.
Certainly there are, Michael, but there has also been, especially over the last 50 years, since the late 1960s, a literal revolution in my discipline, philosophy, in the Anglo-American world, which has brought about a renaissance of Christian philosophy, such that some of our finest...
yeah, that you guys remember this? Remember the Renaissance, dude? That renaissance of Christian philosophy, dude. It's been a renaissance of Christian philosophy, dude. Renaissance. Yeah, that was such a good appeal to authority. He's so right.
names.
If only he could get a refund on his lack of philosophical training, because that wasn't an appeal to authority. But we're going to get back to that here in a minute.
Top universities in America and England who are outspoken Christians, such that the face of my discipline, compared to the 1930s and 40s, when Russell and Eyre were dominant, has been utterly transformed. Best philosophers at our most prestigious universities are now outspoken Bible-believing Christians.
Sir?
I'm sorry, where is this philosophical revolution taking place?
In the Anglo-American realm.
In the mind of William Lane Craig.
In the mind of William Lane Craig. Is that right? As if the only place that this is happening is inside the mind of William Lane Craig. This is what makes me think that TJ is confused about reality, which is why he would benefit from studying philosophy, because what Craig is talking about is a fact. It's not just in the mind of William Lane Craig. Now, I want you to listen to how Craig proceeds in giving the reasons to support his claim that there's a renaissance in Christian philosophy, and then watch how TJ takes those same reasons in order to strawman Craig.
People like Bertrand Russell, who really dominated, like, I'm sorry, I just never have heard
What was the first
this.
thing you said?
I think you meant Eyre.
Oh, Frank
A.J.
Eyre.
Eyre.
A.J. Eyre.
Oh, you mispronounced it.
That's a bygone generation,
I'm
Michael.
right.
I'm talking about
Except for they didn't make fun of him for mispronouncing it, nor did they take that to mean that they're right. So, yeah, not really the best impersonation.
today.
Okay, let's talk about people from today, like Quine, right?
He's dead too.
Well, he died only a couple of years, like
So did
few
Freddie
years
Eyre,
ago.
but I mean...
Let's talk
AJ.
about, let's name names, people like Richard Swinburne at Oxford University.
Oh my God, the
Robert and
Richard
Marilyn Adams
Swinburne.
at Oxford. Brian Leftow at Oxford.
Brian Leftow,
people like
dude.
Alvin Planning at University of Peter
Yep.
Van Inwagen.
Yep. Oh my God.
Dallas Willard.
Oh, his
Eleanor
appeal to
Stump.
authority
I mean, I
is
could
so
go
much
on and on
stronger,
naming-
you guys. Oh, that atheist couldn't summon an appeal to authority for but listen to William Lane Craig appealing to authority so hard. That atheist just got wrecked. Wrecked! Oh my God, he's wrecked.
All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves here, Happy Feet. All right, let's talk about this appeal to authority. I mean, here we have a guy making a video about how unnecessary it is to study philosophy, and then he proceeds to quote a fallacy incorrectly. Imagine my shock. So first off, roughly speaking, an appeal to authority is stating that the reason that something is true is only because an authority says so. And to see why TJ's wrong, all you have to do is recall why Craig mentioned the names of the philosophers in the first place. If you go back and watch the clip again, you'll see that Craig mentioned their names in response to the debater challenging him about the Renaissance in Christian philosophy, and it was the debater who started using names to counter Craig's claim about the Renaissance in Christian philosophy. So Craig wasn't guilty of the fallacy of appealing to authority because Craig didn't say that something is true simply because an authority said so. Come on now, TJ. Calling Christians dumb? Not a good look, my dude. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and listen to how beautiful of a straw man TJ creates so that way he can beat the crap out of it and then claim victory.
Yeah, I mean, aren't you convinced that God exists now? I love taking all the Christian spew and just thinking about it in terms of, oh, does what they're saying right now prove there's a God? Well, you know, a lot of top philosophers at big universities are Christians. Oh, so God is real now, right? Yeah, that makes God real. Now all of a sudden your fantasy is true. So what? If a bunch of philosophers at these schools start worshiping Odin, does that mean Odin's real? You know, or maybe they'll start worshiping cheese, like I said earlier. You know, we're gonna have a cheese-based religion. That sounds better than Christianity. You know.
But notice how confused TJ got that quick. TJ forgot that Craig was actually responding to the atheist debater about the Renaissance in Christian philosophy, but instead, TJ assumed that Craig was mentioning the names in order to prove that Christianity is true. Now, if you have a memory better than that of a goldfish, you know that that wasn't Craig's conclusion at all. TJ actually invented that argument out of thin air, one that Craig never made, and then TJ went on to attack it as if he was actually attacking one of Craig's points. But it was something that Craig never said or insinuated. That is what we call a straw man, something else that TJ would have learned in philosophy. I hope now you're starting to see why you shouldn't get your logic, your theology, or your philosophy from a YouTube atheist. So today we've come to see that the only thing amazing about this atheist is his channel name and possibly the fact that he has over 1 million subscribers. Now click this video to see what happens when a different atheist creates a card game on logical fallacies and then gets refuted by using his own card game. And the next time that you hear TJ arrogantly ridiculing something that he doesn't understand, what are you going to say?
What do you mean?